All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. Nice to have everybody in the mix. It's great to be here. Kim is weathering a cold at the moment. It's been pretty rough on her, but she's doing what good people do who are part of the Mark Thompson Show organization. We all show up.
That's right.
Playing hurt. Albert's here, too.
Albert, thank you.
And we have quite the program today. I'll start with the glitterati. John Rothmann and Ed Begley Jr., the actor. You got it. Richard Greene, the civics dean, is supposed to be here, too. He's an amazing mind on politics. He's been a political consultant. He's run for Congress. He has consulted political campaigns in this country and overseas as well. He's a brilliant mind, and we disagree about a lot of stuff. I mean, I will go, it's practically a food fight when Greene and I go at each other. But on something that he'll talk about today, which is a third-party candidacy and a vote for a third-party candidate, we agree. So we'll get into that as well. The other thing I would mention is that they redrew the congressional map in New York. You know, it was a heavily gerrymandered map, gerrymandered against Democrats. It was actually, this is adjudicated such that, in other words, a court came in and said, hey, you guys got to redraw this, and these new maps are not, they have to be redrawn again. In other words, they've gone back to this redrawing process several times. And now the new congressional proposal from Democrats, the new map, is really like pretty fair. I mean, it doesn't, as usual, Democrats want to play very much within the lines.
Yep.
Don't want to be accused of anything. Republicans will come in and just erase it all. But they have a very middle ground approach to things, and they're just trying to avoid being taken back to court because that's what happened the last time there were lines drawn. So anyway, we may touch on that with John Rothmann or Richard Greene. Both of them are great political minds. There's a lot going on. I want to get into it. I also want to acknowledge an email. So
the Mark Thompson
the
Show.
email came in this morning, and it was
I've received a lot of positive
letters. It was about the levels. It will tell you something that I wrestle with all the time on this show. Albert will tell you this as well. And that is the levels. Mark, please. I've been listening to your YouTube show via podcast since the beginning, and I'm begging you to please, in capital letters, which means that
why are you yelling?
She was yelling. Stop using that high-pitched sound effect when transitioning segments. It kills my ears, and I have to pull my earbuds out of my ears. Isn't there any other sound effect you can use? Maybe you don't notice on YouTube, but for people with earphones, it's really loud and obnoxious. Thank you, Michelle.
Good day, sir.
Well, the audio levels are the most vexing thing to me, and it's impossible for me to monitor them in real time. And I think what she's talking about is this sound, right? Is that what she means?
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which one she was talking about. I think it might be that one.
I think it's bump, bump, bump.
The organ?
The one you just played.
That's
the Mark Thompson Show.
That's the thing she's talking about?
That seems like a reasonable frequency.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, I hope we'll do our best. I'll pull the levels down on them, but sorry about that. Thanks for the note, though, and we'll try to get better about it. You know, I'm as I say, we'll work on it. We'll try to focus on it.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, that too. I also want to acknowledge right here at the start of the show, thank you, those who have found us on Patreon and PayPal. You know, we work so hard and we're completely crowdfunded. It's sort of that PBS pledge model where we have to go, if you like this show and you'd like it to remain on the air, We need your help. Please go to themarkthompsonshow.com and you'll find click-throughs both to PayPal and to Patreon.
We need a B-roll of just like a group of people pretending to be on phones, picking up like for like a
Oh, that's right, like PBS did. Or you
Mark
do
Thompson
that.
Show?
Oh, thank you. The sad music too.
Oh, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show is hanging by a thread. We need your help. TheMarkThompsonShow.com, and you can click Patreon or PayPal links to contribute. So yeah, I wouldn't.
And please click like too. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't.
Yes, all of that stuff. But anyway, I get on that because we have a new Patreon member. They came in heavy.
Woohoo!
I like when they come in heavy. Karen just came in for $35 a month. Come on, baby.
Smashed it with your iron
She
rod.
smashed
Big
it.
shout out.
Big shout out to Karen. Wow, that's really cool. But anything that you jump on with helps us, the bottom line, because we have a bunch of stuff, in fact, a bunch of new expenses to the show that have nothing to do with us. It has to do with, maintaining and broadening the show. But there have been so many of you who have jumped on board.
And thanks to Terry Brown, proud Patreon sponsor since the beginning.
Wow,
Easy way to
come
support
on.
the show. Yeah.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah, the big thank yous, the 4 thank yous. Also, a follow-up on yesterday's story about an Amazon delivery truck being stolen.
Yeah.
I got this email.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Hi, Mark. I wouldn't be surprised if the Amazon driver is fired. Amazon is strict about turning the engine off and taking the keys with us on a stop. This Kelly is an Amazon driver, obviously, and the story was that the truck was left running.
Sure.
And that's why she makes this point. Or he makes this point. I don't know is Kelly a man or a woman?
Could be
I don't
either.
know. Anyway, this is why they make this point.
Yeah.
It's sorry, Kelly. It just occurred to me. I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue, they say. Delivery contractors get in trouble with Amazon if engine off percentage is under 95%. Wow. This is wild. They can monitor
your
how
car.
often your engine is off.
That's crazy.
It
But then
really
when-
is crazy.
Then
Yeah.
aren't you supposed to deliver a certain amount of, like, you're supposed to be wicked fast, right?
Yeah.
So if your production level is down, they're not happy. But if your engine is on too much, they're not happy. What are you gonna do?
The delivery contractor I work for delivering Amazon packages will take a driver off their next shift if they leave the engine running while on a delivery. Wow. Anyway, Kelly, thank you for that. Kelly is my son. Oh, great.
Okay.
So we know Kelly is a man. Tom Malloy, thank you for that. And thank you, Kelly. He wrote in to kind of clear up the Amazon delivery situation. Now, I have something for you, Kim or
Okay.
Albert, and that is that Richard says he's in the green room. I don't see him in the green room.
I do not either. Yeah. So
I don't know where that is.
I'm gonna fix
Oh my
that.
God.
Let me check out for a moment and see if I can't fix it.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Richard Greene, the civics dean, is in the green room, he says. But while Kim is doing that, if I can just
The Mark Thompson Show.
mention that there is a rare blizzard warning for Mammoth, Tahoe. You know, much of our audience is in California, and those of you who kind of cruise through who are not from California also enjoy hearing what's happening in California, and we are getting any manner of huge storms. And at Lake Tahoe and through the Sierra Nevada into Mammoth, officials are urging people to avoid travel. Up to 8 feet of snow could fall. The blizzard warning was in effect from Lassen Volcanic National Park in Shasta County to Kings Canyon National Park in Fresno County. Friday night to Saturday morning is expected to bring the most extreme conditions of severe snowfall and strong winds. Snow falling at the rate of 3 to 5 inches an hour.
What?
Wind gusts on the ridge of California's mightiest mountain range are expected to easily exceed 100 miles an hour. Residents are urged to prepare for power outages and falling trees. It will be treacherous to travel on the roads or even leaving your home during that time frame, Friday through Saturday, according to the National Weather Service in Reno. Wow. 4 to 8 feet of snow could fall in the Tahoe Basin at elevations of 7,000 feet and above. In Mono County, where Mammoth is located, 3 to 6 feet along the Sierra Crest. Pretty incredible. What's going on, Kim? Kim's still working on it with Richard.
She might be on the phone with him.
I hope so. While she is, I wonder if there might be an opportunity for us. Let me just write, Kim is trying to reach you. This is the other thing that we do here on this platform. We have to kind of produce in the moment, with apologies. There he is.
He is here. Yep.
So I will put I have a delicious Law and Disorder later involving a legislator who is a smack talker, and her son got smacked by the law, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But right now I want to pivot into politics. Rothmann's here. He's a big political guy, and this next guy is a big political guy as well, so we'll do that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He is known as Richard Greene, the civics dean. I mentioned before he's a political consultant, former congressional candidate, and he and I love to go at it as we disagree about a lot of things, but we also agree about on many things. And his message on third-party candidacy is a really powerful one. And when you need to know how government works and how elections work, you want to talk to this guy. How about it for Richard Greene, the civics dean? What's up, sir?
So, Mark, I just want to correct you. If we talk long enough, you will agree with me on everything. We're almost there. We're almost there.
What?
That is, a hope of mine that we will. Can I start with what happened a little bit last night in Michigan with the results, and then I want to get to your message about third-party candidates, or your take on third-party candidacy. Did you take something away from sort of the returns in Michigan that we can use looking forward to the general?
Yeah, I've been afraid of this for a long time. I mean, Michigan, whoever wins Michigan generally wins the election recently, right? It's that close. 15 electoral votes is a big deal. There is a significant anti-Biden, genocide Joe situation going on in Michigan because there are so many Arabs and Palestinians there. And that could swing the election. And so the people who did not, the Democrats who purposely did not vote for Joe Biden, who made a protest vote, that if they stay in that mode, then could be that they will be electing Donald Trump.
What's so odd to me about that is that Trump, of course, will be much tougher in terms of his disposition toward those things that they say they care about. So if you care about Palestinian future, you care about two-state solution, you care about these things, none of those things will you see any light on in a Trump administration.
Yeah, I mean, but we've talked about this, and so many people have talked about it. It's an emotional decision. It's not a logical decision. I mean, the people who support the Palestinians in Michigan need to remember that it was Donald Trump who moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem in huge defiance to the desires of the Arab and Palestinian population. But again, I mean, this could be changed very quickly. And I have long been advocating that Joe Biden disconnect from Benjamin Netanyahu and basically say, F you to Netanyahu. You're not my guy. I don't support you. I don't support your policies, but I support and I love Israel. And I want to get the hostages released. You know, I want to create a two-state solution. I want to work with the UAE and Egypt and Saudi Arabia to create a really sustainable, prosperous two-state solution where both sides are safe and secure. That's what he needs to do. And if you have access to him, tell him I said so.
Okay, all right.
That would help him with Michigan, big time.
I mentioned that in New York, they have Democrats have proposed a new congressional map. You know, this is in response to the gerrymandered maps of the past, and they're trying to come up with a more neutral map. And the Democrats, to their credit, apparently have come up with a map with only a very slight tilt in their favor, so they can avoid being dragged back into court. But might that mean trouble in terms of hanging on to New York, or is it a squarely blue state? Tell me about that.
There is all Democrats need to do is flip 4 seats out of 435 congressional seats. They need to flip 4. They lost a bunch of close ones in California and New York, in part because of, the way the maps were, especially in New York. But I think New York made a strategic decision. We're just going to work really hard. We're going to leverage of women's reproductive rights. We're going to leverage the recent situation in Alabama with IGF or IVF. And I think, we got to do what we got to do. I mean, the truth is the Democratic Party represents 90% on issues like gun violence, on reproductive rights, on the environment, what 90% of the people care about. And the key in this election, as we've talked about every time, is getting young people to get out and vote. The challenge, coming back to your earlier thing, is if young people kind of side with what's going on with the Democrats in Michigan and they say, I'm going to send a message to Genocide Joe and I'm going to stay home, whether they're in Michigan or New York, that's going to hurt congressional candidates as well. So everything is interconnected. This is the most bizarre and fascinating and scariest presidential election in my lifetime. And I've been in politics, you know how old I am. I've been in politics a long time, and I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it's not just the presidency, of course, as you suggested. It's a representation. You're so close to representation in the House, and you can see, as we're on the verge of a government shutdown again, you can see how important it is to have control of these legislative bodies. I want to ask you about the third party.
Before we do, I just want to remind people that there is a magic number in American civics and politics. It's 270. If the Republicans have 270 elected government national officials, they can and they will pass a national abortion ban. That national abortion ban will affect people in California, no matter what laws we pass, people in Kansas, people in Ohio, people in New York, people in Illinois. A national abortion ban will override, because of the supremacy clause in the United States Constitution, it will override state laws that allow liberal abortion, usage or utilization. We are 2 Republicans away. The Republicans right now have a majority in the House to pass, for example, a national abortion ban, and they are 1 senator away, because of this next election, of being able to pass that in the Senate, and 1 president away. So the magic number for a national abortion ban is 270. They've got 268. And if that's not going to motivate people to get out and vote for Democratic congressmen and Democratic senators and a Democratic president, any of whom can stop it, right? It's all about getting a trifecta, right? You need a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate, and the White House. then you know what? We deserve what we get. We deserve what we get. If people don't vote, we deserve what we get. And if people vote, to segue to your question, if people vote for third parties, Jill Stein, Cornel West, or Bobby Kennedy, no matter how much you frickin' like them, you are voting for Republicans to take control of your lives, your reproductive rights, the environment, gun safety issues, the democracy, on and on and on. The third parties in our system are a terrible idea, because they thwart the will of the people. And as I shared with you, 5, count them, 5. That is already a majority of the current Supreme Court justices are there because of third parties interfering with the national popular vote and the will of the people in the year 2000 and the year 2016. 5. And if people want to do that, say, oh, I don't like Joe Biden, he's too old, I'm going to vote for Bobby Kennedy. And if you're in a swing state, that could elect Donald Trump. Or the same thing, and especially with Jill Stein, who already destroyed us in the 2016 election, and Cornel West, who is a very compelling African-American thought leader and a charismatic guy. But what the hell is he doing? What the hell is he doing? He understands politics. This is insanity. Third parties are poison to our democracy right now. We can change the system, but it's not the system we have now.
Well, it is that you described, that's the problem. It's a system that is broken, and people feel as though this is how we got here. But then I want to double back to the 270 because I'm seeing it in the chat. What's 270? We'll get that in a second. But we have this broken system, and it's two parties. You're right. I mean, it's going to be one or the other always right now. And it is the system that is, as I say, it's diseased because it doesn't really represent so many of the opinions and needs of the people. But it's the system we have. But it's in response to that last thing I said, I think, I would say respectfully, Richard, that the Cornel Wests of the world, the RFK Juniors of the world, that's where they step up. They go, our voice isn't being heard on all these issues, and we're going to get our voice heard by entering the presidential sweepstakes. So you do get a bigger, platform, right? You get a bigger megaphone. But as you say, from the standpoint of what you're actually doing, you're throwing votes to the opposition.
I'm all for people having their voice. We have Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and YouTube for that. But bottom line, George W. Bush was elected by 537 votes in the state of Florida, because Ralph Nader wanted to have a voice. Ralph Nader got almost 100,000 votes. It is absolutely indisputable that Ralph Nader voters overwhelmingly would have gone to Al Gore. So we didn't get Al Gore. We didn't get a really great environmental president because of a third party in 2000. But we also got John Roberts, who's not a horrible Chief Justice, but he's certainly not progressive. And we got one of the worst Supreme Court justices ever, who is a Christian nationalist, Samuel Alito. We've had him since George Bush days. We may have him for another 20 years because of third parties. And then we got three anti-women's rights, gun violence prevention, anti-environment, all of that justices, because Hillary Clinton, who won by 2.9 million votes, lost by 78,000 votes because of third parties, Jill Stein specifically, in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So I just don't think their voice being heard is worth it. And here's one other thing. If Bobby Kennedy wins one electoral vote, it's not going to be one. Let's say he wins Nevada with 6 electoral votes. That could prevent Joe Biden from reaching 270 electoral votes. If no one gets 200, even though he would be ahead of Donald Trump, if no one gets 270 electoral votes, this is the same magic number of America on how you pass bills, coincidentally or not, then the entire election goes into the House of Representatives. And people go, well, that's great. Maybe the House will be Democratic. Doesn't matter. It's decided by one state, one vote. And right now there are 28 states that have a majority Republican delegation, only 21 that have a Democratic. And if the Republicans have a majority in the House of Representatives, no matter what, they are going to choose Donald Trump, no matter how many votes he lost to Joe Biden by. So one electoral vote for any third party candidate is likely a total re-election of Donald Trump. The consequences here are scary. And I do not believe, sorry for going on for so long, I don't believe the system is broken, Mark. I do not believe the system is broken.
Well, you just articulated one of the most broken aspects of it. I'm so surprised that you say it. So you're saying if Trump trails Biden significantly, but Biden doesn't get to the 270 threshold. They go to the Congress in this ridiculous system, which is just another example of how diseased our system is. And instead of it being any kind of real reflection and representation of the populace, it's just one state, one vote, and there are more red states than blue states, and boom, Trump is in. If that doesn't tell you how our system is broken, and that's just one facet of how it's broken, then I don't know what will.
Why are you yelling?
Okay, well, I will agree with you. I will agree with you that the structure of the Electoral College, which was a racist thing added by the small racist slave states way back when, I agree that that's really screwed up. But the system can be fixed easily, instantly on November 5th or any election if Americans all vote. If Americans vote, the Electoral College will not stand in the way of our getting what the vast majority of our country wants. That's where I say it's not broken. It's broken because young people don't vote. It's broken because people of color don't vote. It's broken because old white people vote more than other people who have more progressive values.
Well, that's another way it's broken, the body politic maybe. But I would suggest to you the institution that you defend is diseased. But we can do that another. I'm getting questions about why is it 270? Why 270? Can you explain 270 more? I don't understand why it's 270. Where does the 270 come from? I'm getting that. What? Go through that again. The 270. Obviously, 270 is the magic number on the presidential election, right?
It's the magic number of America. Okay. Listen, democracy is a mathematical concept. It's all about numbers, right?
Okay, so explain the 270,
Here we go.
Please.
So the Electoral College, it's 270 electoral votes. We have 535 electors. You get 270. That is a majority. You get 269. You don't have a majority. You need 50% plus one. So 270 Electoral College votes. Also now, you need 270 elected national government officials to pass any piece of legislation. You need 218 to pass a bill, the Mark Thompson vegan nutrition bill or whatever.
Thank you. I love that bill. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Then you need 51 votes in the United States Senate to pass a bill. They say, well, what about the filibuster? You need 60, but you can override the filibuster with a carve out by 51 votes. You can end the filibuster completely by 51 votes. So you just need to find 51 senators who are willing to actually bypass the filibuster. So you got 218 plus 51, and then that comes to 269. What's the 270th?
VP, I suppose, right?
No, you need a president who will sign the bill. A president who will sign the bill. Because if a president vetoes the bill, you then need 2/3 in both houses, which means you need an additional 79 votes, right? So you need 270 to pass the Women's Health Protection Act to restore Roe v. Wade and reproductive rights across America. We currently have 264. We need 6 more. We need 6 more.
That's great.
So we need 4 more in the House. We need 1 more in the Senate. We need to reelect a president who will sign the bill. So it's so simple.
Yeah.
We can fix this. It's not broken. It's simple second grade math.
All right, I've got to wrap up. I love having you in. Will you come visit regularly through the election season and beyond, please?
I will. And by the way, as a birthday present to me, I set up a Bitly link. The best way to celebrate my birthday and anybody's birthday in America is to get people who are not engaged, who are not going to vote, to register and vote. And so it's www.bit.ly/Richard's birthday. I had a big birthday on Sunday, as you know, bit.ly/Richard's birthday.
Will you, Albert? I know you're writing that down, Albert, and I know you're going to put that in the description for this video. We'll drop this video separately as well as being on the show, and we'll put it in there. You got it, Albert?
And that takes you to vote.org for voter registration. However you want to register, but please register and vote and get involved and fix the fixable part of this system. Love you, Mark Thompson.
Love you back, my friend, and happy birthday. Richard Greene, the Civics Dean. Come on, everyone.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How cool is he? Pretty great, huh? Man, he knows his world. You got it.
That
Albert?
initial link didn't work. I'm gonna have to do some digging on this, or I'll just email him.
Email him and get the link from him.
He was
I hate it when
fun.
people go, it's really easy. It's
liked
just
him.
http://bity.ly/Richard's birthday. It's super easy. But I think it is easy. Well, Albert will get it for you, and you can click it below this video, the live show, and then we'll put it below the video that we break out. Kim,
I liked
you're a
him.
star.
He was fun.
He's great. He really is great. He knows his stuff. You'll hear more from
Totally
him.
knows his stuff.
Man, when we go at it, it's great. We disagree about stuff, and it's really, we're on the same side, sort of. But
I saw a lot of in the chat pushback on the whole third party thing, where some people were saying, hey, just give a good candidate, and then you won't have to worry about another third party candidate, right? But I tend to think that Dr. Greene, the civics dean, Richard Greene, the civics dean, has a real point. And if you look back at, what happened in years past and how the third party siphoned off the vote, that we have to be smarter, especially with somebody like Trump who could come and slip right in.
well,
We can't split our vote.
certainly, I understand the idea somehow that if you get the right candidate, you won't have any problem. But these, purity tests are increasingly difficult to pass. And, I want somebody with the, with the same underpinning of political philosophy that I have. Will protect women's reproductive rights, will be good on the environment, will be good on economics, will buttress the existing infrastructure bill, whatever your thing is. I don't know what it is. Right. We'll go with green energy. We won't go with green energy, whatever your thing is. And they have to be, I want them to be good with oratory like Barack Obama, and I want them to be 48 years old so they're vibrant. And
I'd like to have a beer with them,
Yeah, you want to be like, I want a beer with them, like, or a barbecue like George Bush the Younger. Hey, this isn't a dating app, okay? You're not going to get everything. You really are, with this diseased, awful system we have, you know how I feel about it, constantly having to compromise on what you want. Yeah. And so I would say this idea that we just would run somebody who's, I get it. If you'd run my dream date, I'd vote for that person. That dream date probably may not make it through this process, which puts a premium on so much, including money. And that's another way the system is diseased. So, and he sounds great, Mark. Yes, my hypothetical candidate sounds really great. Anyway, smash the like button if you would.
Smash it with your iron rod.
It helps us in the YouTube algorithm if you give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing. Kim's News, and then the great John Rothmann, another dose of politics. And then we totally shift gears with Ed Begley Jr. coming through. The actor has a great book, and his life has been amazing. So I think you'll really enjoy that. So we'll continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I'll try to keep it quick so we can get to Mr. Rothman, but let's first talk about what's happening right now, where Hunter Biden is telling the House Republicans his father was never involved in any of his business ventures. President Biden's son is now testifying behind closed doors in the Republican-led impeachment inquiry into the president. Well, that was a new one. Hunter Biden accused Republicans in his opening statement of pushing innuendo and ignoring evidence in their investigation. Senate Republicans will have a new party leader for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Bye-bye, Mitch McConnell. Gone. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell announcing today on the Senate floor he is stepping down in November after serving 9 two-year terms since 2006. The Kentucky senator did say he will serve out the remainder of his Senate term, which ends in January of 2027, but he said it's just time to bring in some new blood. Let's get it going. Supreme Court having an issue and kind of being torn over this challenge to the gun accessory bump stocks. You can see it being held here in the photo. A ban on this accessory was imposed by the Trump administration in 2017 after the Las Vegas mass shooting. That's where a shooter used a bump stock equipped gun to kill dozens at a country music festival. In oral arguments today, both liberal and conservative justices asked questions indicating that they believe it's possible an older law aimed to ban machine guns could also include bump stocks. So we'll see what they decide. Here it comes, coming right upon us. Super Tuesday. Yep. It is March 5th, Super Tuesday. The primaries could virtually seal a Biden-Trump rematch come November. Former President Trump leads Nikki Haley by a margin of 122 to 24 delegates and could potentially be just a couple hundred delegates away from clinching the Republican nomination. President Biden's biggest challenge in the Democratic primaries is a campaign vote uncommitted in protest of his support for Israel. Texas Governor Greg Abbott issuing a disaster declaration for 60 counties as a result of a wildfire. This one is going on in the Texas Panhandle. Pretty serious situation there. The Smokehouse Creek fire has burned 500,000 acres since Monday. It is expected to grow even more. The Texas A&M Forest Service says the wildfire is now the second largest fire in that state's history. So up here in fire country, California, we feel that. It's a pretty serious situation. The Powerball jackpot is now up to $412 million. It comes with a cash value of $195 million. This comes after no one won last night's Mega Millions jackpot either. It's now at $607 million. Yeah, that's getting close to pop. That's getting close to pop territory. Yep.
You're interested?
I mean, it's perking my ears up a little bit. Yes. The cash value is over $286 million. So I'll take that. Absolutely.
If you missed it, Kim doesn't really get interested at $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. Doesn't really move her meter.
No,
you got to really get up there tens of millions.
You have to.
And you got to really now get up to hundreds of millions. Now she's interested.
Now there's something worth playing for. Yeah, now you're cooking with fire. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Bring me the Coachella Valley Coffee tea. As a matter of fact, the Moroccan mint tea in my cup today. Mm-hmm. So good. The coffee, amazing. Coachella Valley Coffee.
The coffee right here.
What do you got in the cup today there?
I have the El Gato. El Gato espresso.
Is that the cat? You're drinking the cat?
I guess it would mean the cat, the translation, but it's very good, dark and delicious, just like me.
Ginger mint tea. Oh, I could just peruse all of this. Vanilla tea. That's good. Good stuff. So, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Surprise, surprise. Just because you're listening to the show, you get 10% off. So when you're checking out, enter Mark T at checkout. If you're thinking, whatever, I'm not going to go to that website. I'm not going to do it. You're really only hurting yourself because I'm telling you what, this is some good coffee and some good tea. So check it out. It is CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And again, Mark T at checkout. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson? 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 Who's Mark Thompson?
All right, I get the idea. Really, enough already. Great to have everybody here, and more than anyone who is here, it's great to have this guy here. I yield to no man in my respect and love. Yes, I use the word love. For our next guest, he is the great John Rothmann.
Thank you, and I reciprocate fully.
Thank you,
sir. I hasten to point out, you were just talking about birthdays with your previous guest, that I will, on March 2nd, be 75 years old.
Come on, everybody.
Which is hard for me to believe, but
you've gotten more out of every year than most of us could ever dream. You're living your best life, John Rothmann. I think it's pretty exciting.
Why are you yelling?
Now, John Rothmann, turn your political focus toward a couple of things. First, the messages out of Michigan for Trump, Biden, and for the country.
The election of 2024 may be resolved by people who vote against rather than for. Very clear on the Republican side that Donald Trump was the overwhelming favorite in Michigan, but Nikki Haley nonetheless scored very well, 30% of the vote roughly. And that is very significant because a lot of those Republicans won't vote for him. And as for Joe Biden, there is a protest vote. There is no doubt about it. The uncommitted delegate count was good. And that primarily has to do with the Middle East. I would only remind you, I just got a book yesterday in the mail about Donald Trump being a great Zionist. And I can assure you, if they circulate that book in certain neighborhoods in Dearborn and in Detroit, he won't do nearly as well. So I think in the end, it's really a clear case of the fact that in this election it'll be close, but I still give the edge to Joe Biden.
The point you've just made is such an important one. It's an odd thing, and as I talk a lot, and I'm sure I'll talk more about how flawed our system is, but one of the flaws is you end up with this protest vote that, while being important on some level, I suppose, also doesn't really take stock of the fact that by protesting with your vote, you're throwing your vote to someone who's even worse. It's a weird
Look,
lack
in the
of
end,
political
Mark,
calculation that's being done.
in the end, any Arab or Muslim American or Christian Arab, for that matter, who would vote for a candidate for president who wanted a ban on people from the Middle East, a Muslim ban, I just don't see it. I think in the end, Joe Biden will carry Michigan. I think organized labor is going to stick with him. I think most Michigan residents will stick with him. And I think he'll win. I think he'll win by a bigger margin than he won last time.
And I'll just probe on that, and then I will move on. And
sure.
The probe would be, what if those people to whom you've referred, the protest voters, if they just lay out, John, how does that affect the result?
You mean stay home?
Yes.
I don't think they will. There are too many issues on the ballot of great consequence, including a Michigan senator's race, which is going to be critical. I have a feeling, look, what I'm learning is the people who are going to vote for Donald Trump are going to vote for him no matter what. The people who are going to vote for Joe Biden are going to vote for him no matter what. But there's also an anti-vote. There are more people who will vote against Donald Trump than there are people who will vote against Joe Biden. And look at the impeachment hearing that is taking place. Hunter Biden, even as we chat, is on the witness stand in a closed hearing. And the Republicans have nothing on Joe Biden. They were elected to accomplish certain things, and they keep saying, oh, we've got the evidence. And the evidence never turns up. I think that Joe Biden, if he's smart, and the Democrats will run as Harry Truman did in 1948 against that good-for-nothing Republican Congress. And by the way, let me make a quick note about Mitch McConnell. I didn't know that he was going to step out, but this morning in my commentary on my own podcast, Around the Political World with John Rothmann, I mentioned the fact, comparing McConnell and Chuck Schumer, that it is very clear the Republicans have a real challenge. Well, now they really do. They're going to have to choose a new leader. And clearly, that's going to be a fascinating change. After all, McConnell is the longest serving Senate leader. And it's going to be an interesting change. May I say, the person who may be most relieved is Donald Trump, because Donald Trump doesn't like Mitch McConnell, and I can assure you Mitch McConnell doesn't like Donald Trump. So it's a very interesting thing. And as to the aid bill for Ukraine, for Israel, and for Taiwan, who was the big proponent? It was Mitch McConnell. And so Speaker Johnson now is on very, very, very thin ice, because he's beholden to about 35 members of the House who belong to the Freedom Caucus, who toppled Speaker McCarthy, and who now may well topple him. The impotence of the Republicans is the most interesting thing. And let me just point out one other thing. I know I've got a lot of questions, but I want to point this out. In 1952, the Republicans asked a question, who lost China? And of course, China was lost not by Democrats or Republicans, but by, well, too long a history lesson to go into. But we'll know if Ukraine falls, who is responsible for the fall of Ukraine. Who lost Ukraine? The Republicans. And I think that is very clear. They have a real problem. They're going to have to address it. And they're caught between a rock and a hard place, between Trump and Speaker Johnson and their own conscience. So we'll have to see what happens.
But John, says Lori, you said in 2016 that Trump would lose the election, not the popular vote. Sorry, not counting on people waking up to Trump's grift and flaws. Well, you weren't alone in saying that he would lose the election. In fact, I think Trump thought he was going to lose the election.
Yeah, they had a concession speech all set. But I want to point out that Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote. But the difference is, and I really think this is important, Hillary Clinton neglected to go to states like Michigan and Wisconsin. She thought they were in the bag. The Democrats aren't working that way. I had lunch yesterday with a very old friend who took me out to celebrate my birthday and who paid for lunch, which was even nicer. But I can tell you that his comment was, it will all depend on voter registration. Jeff, if you're listening, I'm telling the world right now, Jeff said it's all voter registration. The Democrats have got to not only register people, but turn them out to vote. And you will note there is a real conflict in the Republican Party. There are some Republicans who are saying we have to do what the Democrats have done, and that is register voters and get them to the polls. We have to get mail-in ballots going. And then there are those who say, oh no, don't go to mail-in ballots. That will provide another corrupt election. So all I can say is my friend Jeff is 100% correct. By the way, he lives in California, but he has a place up in Truckee. And so he is going to work very hard in Nevada to ensure that Nevada goes for the Democrats.
That's a tricky state. That's a very important state. Absolutely right. This is an election that it's affected by so many different elements. And as you have noted often, the unshakable floor that Trump has is a real one. But the ceiling he has might be a real one also. And I think that's kind of what we're getting from some of these early primary results.
Yeah, I want to make a quick comment about in vitro fertilization. Donald Trump did the right thing, and I want to commend him for it on this program. He is in favor of in vitro fertilization. And that sets him at odds with some Republicans. But the most important single thing is it diffuses the issue as a national campaign issue. And I think the Republicans will have to step back on that one. Because if they're really pro-life, then so-called, then the creation of life is very important, and in vitro fertilization is critical. The fact that an embryo is viewed by some as a child is nuts. And by the way, Nikki Haley got stuck on that because she had both of her children, a boy and a girl, through in vitro, and she came out with a statement that an embryo is a child. And all of a sudden, she's caught in the conflict of who's right, who's wrong. So Nikki Haley lost on that issue, I think, because she wasn't clear, and then she had to retreat and go backward and forward. But
well, that's what she does. She does a two-step. She equivocates, and Trump doesn't care IVF. He doesn't give a damn. How dare you commend him on my show? All he's doing is he's simply playing to the chorus for political expedience. You know
that's
that, John.
Good. Don't you understand that is a good thing? Because now Republicans who support Trump cannot embrace the idea that in vitro fertilization is wrong. For women who rely and men who rely on in vitro in order to have children, this is a great thing. And by the way, thank you for pointing out that I said something nice about Donald Trump. Remember, I did that with the Abraham Accords as well. A clock, my dear friend, even a clock that is stopped is right twice a day.
But John, in this case, they're already in Alabama working on legislation to work around the IVF ruling or the court, as you know. I mean, in other words, they know they've stepped in it. They know that this doesn't reflect really the people's wish. It reflects the wish of a hard right religious theology, if that's not redundant, legislatively that they pursued, and then they've got
in the judicial. This wasn't legislative. This was judicial. This is the Chief Justice of the Alabama State Supreme Court. Read his opinion. If he gave it as a sermon at church on a Sunday, it would be appropriate. But
it's all about the Lord. That's right. Yeah. Okay. John, what's happening in San Francisco? We're going to lose Macy's now, which is a major retail outlet. The story of how Macy's emerged is a great one. I'm going to do it a little bit later in the show.
It's a wonderful story. The Chronicle did a great job. Look, the fall of Macy's is not the fault of Mayor Breed or the fault of any San Francisco politician. Macy's is doing this across the nation. They've decided to go upscale to appeal to people who can really afford to buy things. That was not the Macy's original thesis, which was to provide a store where anybody could shop. What does it mean for San Francisco? The same thing it's going to mean across the country. We are going to have to rethink how we use urban space. But let me tell you, I may be sometimes critical of Mayor Breed, but not on this one. She is trying to do the right thing, and I hope that all of the candidates for mayor unite behind the idea that this is not an individual mayor's fault. It is really the fault of where we are in every sense. I will miss Macy's, but you have the picture up. The white building on the to the left is the old I Magnin. And let me remind you, when I was a kid, when I went to the bathroom, when I was with my grandmother and my mother, we went to the bathrooms at I Magnin because they were so elegant. Gold-plated faucets and attendants and the whole nine
That's
yards.
a great story. I love that.
And I just read a wonderful book. James, if you're listening, he wrote a wonderful book on I Magnin some years ago. But the day of these kinds of dominant department stores are gone, at least for the time being. The interesting impact is on malls, because people still go to malls. They want that social interaction. But let me remind everyone that Macy's, in its heyday, was a destination for shopping. And then if you were very lucky, you got to go to Blum's and have what my grandmother would call a nice chocolate soda or an ice cream soda. And it was a full day. I was standing, by the way, at Macy's Santa's Village. Where are kids going to go to have that kind of experience where Macy's took a whole floor and turned it into an enchanting Christmas theme? And
well, also the location of Macy's there on Union Square, it was just so special as well. I mean, like when you walked out of the store, it was, as you suggested, there were just so many wondrous places to knock around. It was a real different time.
But I don't blame the mayor. I can tell you that the mayor's race in San Francisco has become a billionaire's race. You know that I gave serious thought to running, and I really did, and had a lot of people behind me. But I realized, Mark, that I would have had to dip into the reserve of all of the people who were supporting you in order to raise the millions of dollars that I would have needed to run for mayor. And there was an article in the Chronicle last week that I'm sure you saw. Only billionaires can apply. And the simple reality is that to run for mayor, you have to have very, very deep pockets, and you have to be willing to go to your friends and hit them up. Well, that was something, frankly, I was not prepared to do.
It's
nor was I prepared to ride on Mark Thompson's coattails about raising money.
Yeah. Well, I would have been happy to have you ride, but I understand the reluctance to put the bite on friends of yours. I remember getting a call from a friend of mine who was running for Congress, and he seemed to have all of these progressive ideas, and he seemed to be essentially sharing values with me, at least in a pretty generic first blush. But I hadn't heard from him in years, and we went to high school together. And he said, "Hey," and and then you do the 6-minute warm up dance. Maybe it was 7 minutes, and then finally he puts the bite on you. He goes, "Hey, I'm running, and I know you and I think the same way, and I want to make a difference, and I want to represent, et cetera." And then you got to write a check or not. But it's hard. I think it's hard to make all those calls, and so much of politics is just that. It's got nothing to do with underpinning political philosophies. It's shaking the trees for money.
And that also goes to the idea of public financing. Should we exclude people? One of the candidates for mayor has a single contributor who happens to be his mother, who gave him $1 million. And Daniel Lurie's a very able fellow, but should you take $1 million, from one donor in order to run for mayor? And that applies to London Breed, who is raising money prodigiously now. I remember the days when you couldn't get a city contract if you didn't pay to play. Or my dear friend, the late lamented Russ Wolden, you could get your tax bill lowered if you sent him a Thanksgiving turkey or a wine or liquor or gave him a vacation. Those days are over. So the question of public financing is very interesting in terms of running, because normally, you know, there is a limit in San Francisco. I think it's $500 is the cap for an individual candidate. So a husband and wife can give $1,000. But what do you do when you have individuals whose families have exceptional wealth who can give $1 million? Or in the case of, he has a brother who gave him $250,000 on the Prop E measure. So, I don't resent that. Understand. I believe.
Well, resent or not, John, it's not. I mean, having the system infected by this money is just, it's a bad thing, isn't it?
I want to be clear about this, Mark. If people are going to give money, they should do it to the Mark Thompson program.
Thank you. That's I love it how John always brings it home like that.
Please put up the banner so people know where to contribute.
Put up the banner, damn it, Albert. My God.
Notice I'm
You've
taking
got
down
the guest
my own
asking
banner.
Albert to put up the banner.
Albert, thank you.
Wow.
Did you see that I'm asking him to take down the banner about my podcast?
Yeah, that's right.
In order to support yours.
A selfless act. Thank you. He is the great John Rothmann. You can find him at Around the Political World with John Rothmann, his daily podcast. Great takes on so many things
just
related
say,
to politics.
we now have 150,000 downloads. We continue to grow. And part of the reason that we have been so effective is because of the Mark Thompson program. And Mark's very generous wish that I join him every Wednesday, and that it is then replayed on our lines as well, just so people know. And I want to also thank Nikki Maduro, who does the same thing, and Kim McAllister, who is unfailingly supportive. And so
let's just keep it about me, if you could, John. Thank you very much.
Yes. Can I ever tell you about all the radio talk show hosts I know who are only slightly egomaniacal?
John Rothmann.
Isn't that a ding word, egomaniacal?
You are magic. Prodigious was a ding word. You used it, and I'll give you another one for egomaniacal. He's John Rothmann. Find him here on Wednesdays and across the political spectrum.
Wait, before we go,
that? Yes.
You realize the next time here, Super Tuesday will have taken place.
Oh,
I
that's
know
right.
my birthday is important, but what's really important is March 5th. And we will be able to talk on Wednesday about how secure we will be in terms of the choices made on March the 5th. And may I add, I hope everyone votes here in California in the election of March 5th. We have a family meeting. There are 4 of us, my wife, myself, my 2 sons, and we fill out the ballot, sometimes arguing, but making sure we all vote. So vote, for heaven's sake.
Love it. Well said, sir. John Rothmann, everybody. Thanks, John!
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Who's Mark Thompson?
We are so glad you're here. We've got Ed Begley Jr. coming up, and I was wondering if I could get the blessing of both Kim and Albert. If I could squeeze in a little law and disorder, because it's so...
Kim, how are you?
...remarkable that we can get I don't know, there's a major controversial smack-talking legislator whose son is in law and disorder.
Albert, thank you.
What do you think, Albert?
I like it. Yeah, we should get to it so we can
All right, before Ed Begley Jr., smash the like button like a boss, if you would. Give us a thumbs up. And this is Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Lauren Boebert's 18-year-old son, Tyler, arrested. Faces 22 charges. This in connection with a spate of vehicle break-ins and property theft. Kind of low-grade, white trash stuff.
Oh.
He's not doing, some big caper. He's not hatching some huge ripoff. There he is on YouTube, and I'm going to say on the booking photo scale, I'm going to give that a 5, which is average.
He's a handsome young man.
Yeah, handsome. I think he's fine, but I don't think there's anything particularly special, so I'm giving him a 5.
Maybe a little out of it.
Yeah, it might be, He faces 22 charges, including criminal possession of a financial device. Of course, Lauren Boebert is the Colorado Congresswoman, and she was taken. He's facing nearly 24 different charges. I thought that she might have met him there, but I don't see anything referencing that.
22 charges he's facing, and many of them have to do with like vehicle theft type of thing.
Yeah, he was in, and he is in the town of Rifle, Colorado, which many have pointed out as sort of an eerie coincidence. It's part of the district that his mother still represents in Congress. He has 4 felony counts of criminal possession of an ID, a felony count of conspiracy to commit a felony, and more than 15 different misdemeanor and petty charges. He is an inmate right now, listed as an inmate at the Garfield County Jail. And so far, bond has not been set for his release. She, I believe, announced that she's not going to run in that district anymore. She's running in a different district in Colorado.
Yeah, she had to pull a switcheroo because of the district that she was running in. She probably would not have been successful.
Yeah. So that's the word on. Do you have the picture of her? We'll post pictures of her and her son and happier days. Cute young man, grew up to be, they grew up so fast, Kim, as you know. They grew up so fast, and they have minds of their own, those kids. And all I can say is, here he is. They look so happy. Lauren Boebert taking time out of smack-talking Democrats to pose with her son, who's now in police custody. And that is Law and Disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
I'm excited about our next guest. With your blessing, Albert, I'd like to get right to him. Can I do that, please?
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, we should get right to him.
This guy is a beloved actor, environmental activist, and he grew up the son of a legendary actor also, Oscar-winning actor. So he's chronicled a bunch of the stories and some reflections on his life, which has just been wild, in a new book. Here he is visiting with us now, Ed Begley Jr., everybody. Come on.
Mark, so good to see you and to hear you. It's lovely.
You too, my friend. Look at you. So the new book, we'll mention it a couple times, but To the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It, a memoir. Tell us where the title came from.
Wonderful actor Dick Stahl said that line, not on stage, as he said many funny lines and not in front of a camera, which he did the same. Dick Stahl was very funny, but he found himself in Asia. He was rushing to get there to get to this ashram, and he actually said the lines while hopping in a cab when he finally got there very late in distress. He went to the Temple of Tranquility and step on it. So I thought that ironic and wonderful, and I vowed if I ever wrote a book, that would be the title.
Oh, it is wonderful, and your life is wonderful, and it's also very honest. You grew up in Hollywood, the son of a really well-known Hollywood actor. I mean, brilliant actor, not just a star. I mean, someone who was revered for his acting chops and for his performances. And what you talk about in the book, as I recall, is that you really kind of expected a career to come to you. You really, I think, give us an unvarnished look at somebody who grew up in the scene and thought the scene would just come to them.
Yeah, it's probably true in many other fields, law and medicine and sports and anything you can imagine, that the son of or the daughter of or the cousin of thinks, well, that sure looks easy what my dad or mom does. Let me do that. Having no idea what kind of work they put into it to get to that point where they're successful, as my dad was as an actor. And he was first a radio actor. He was a stage actor, won a Tony for that, won an Oscar for Sweet Bird of Youth in 1962 for, Best Supporting Actor. Great guy. And he made it look so easy. I was like impatient all the time. Thank God I never said it to him. I would have gotten the back of his hand. But I thought, get me a series, for God's sake. Can't you get me on Gunsmoke or Wagon Train or one of those shows? Get me on Perry Mason, for God's sake. I don't want just a one-line thing. I want to be a regular. Why aren't you getting me work, Dad? And finally, I started doing some training, that's what you need to get work. Don't misunderstand me. Being the son of anybody, or the daughter of anybody, the cousin of somebody might help you because they'll remember your name. And they certainly remembered my name because of my dad. And more importantly, they had something to talk about on the job interview, which is what a casting session is. It's a job interview. They're relaxing, going, I worked with your dad in Philco Playhouse. We did some wonderful other radio shows. We did Aldrich Family and Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Top of page 8, Eddie. Good luck, pal. They're kind of rooting for you. You still have to deliver. You have to be good enough to get the part and to perform the part. But the door is open. You got your foot and your shoulder in there when you really think about it.
You also talk about how really you were just getting the one-offs, and in the frustration, you were knocking around Hollywood. I mean, it's weird to read about your knocking around. God, I mean, you hung out with the glitterati. You hung out with people. You were down at the Troubadour, and the other thing you speak of, and you can pick up any of this stuff, Ed. I almost don't know where to start. Your life really runneth over with all of these rich stories and this rich environment. But you also talk about how you were out there partying with everybody, but you were a really partier. You had a real problem with alcohol.
Other people, it was kind of a pastime, but for me, it was a real dedicated career in alcoholism. I didn't realize it 2 years later, Mark. I set out to be an alcoholic because I saw Peter O'Toole and I saw Richard Burton and I saw Oliver Reed and these guys. And the word was to do that wonderful work they did. Forget about RADA and going and studying. I didn't pay any attention to that. Didn't want to hear about that, to be honest. But they got drunk sometimes on stage and on camera, on films. They would be slightly tipsy or more on some of these movies. I heard tell of that. This is the kind of job I want. If that's in the job description, sign me up. And it was very much like that. If you read Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, if you didn't do whatever somebody had in their pocket, you were considered out of it. What is he, a narc or something? Here, let's go. Here, go again. That's the way it was back then.
Now, you make a good point. There was a lot of social pressure, in effect, to continue in this lifestyle. Yeah.
So when I got sober in 1979, it was like I probably lost a few friends, but more importantly, I gained some better friends, a better class of friends, and kept some of them that were solid citizens to begin with. They weren't quite as dedicated to alcoholism as me, and they supported me, and supported me on my way to getting better.
You talk about, I remember a couple of times, at least one, like really, where you're really hammered and you get pulled over by the cops, as I recall.
Yeah.
And this looked like it was going to be your end, and somehow you skated on that.
Christmas Eve, 1975, I'm at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. I've already been to Dan Tana's for the evening. I drank a quart of vodka, then a bottle of Chardonnay, took a half a Quaalude, then another half and another half, and got in the car and hoped to drive home. And I just ran into these cars, stopped the way I should have been stopped at the red light at San Vicente and Sunset there. And I ran into them. And right next to all the cars I ran into, there was a sheriff's department car there looking like, are we filming something tonight? And they didn't tell me. What is that? Is that a stunt driver? What? He did that right next to us. Are you kidding me? And I got out of the car. Now suddenly I'm not on Quaaludes or anything. I'm still on it, but I have so much adrenaline. I'm 26 years old. I'm like, my heart is pounding like this. I go, guys, I'm going to take care of all this. It is entirely my fault. Let me talk to these officers. 1 second. Gentlemen, do me a favor. Cuff me and take me in. What, have you been drinking? Yeah, I had a couple drinks. Guys, it's Christmas Eve. Do it. But I'm telling you, I'm going to sue Toyota Motor Company. I've been pumping these brakes since back at Doheny. They're defective. And if you arrest me, it will help my case. I'm begging you guys, take me right the hell in. Reverse psychology, whatever the hell, like, oh, he looks like my cousin. They let me go. They not only didn't arrest me, they let me drive my car home.
Unbelievable. I mean, maybe your best acting performance that was never fully recognized,
I think that definitely was. That's the way it was. But the guys that I ran into, the three African-American guys in the car in front of me, I think if they had run into me, I don't think they would have gotten off so easy.
Yeah, that's certainly
I kind of look like the guys that stopped me.
Right. I remember I'm trying to think of when exactly it happened, like what period of your life. But there you are, younger Ed Begley Jr. next to Nicholson, who is a pal of yours. You talk about him in the book. In fact, there's a critical moment with you and Jack Nicholson on a set that you speak of in the book.
I'm very lucky to have known him. I met him through a great friend and producer, Harry Gittes, great guy. And Jack is very much a great guy, too. This is the 80s here. But in the 70s, I did a movie with him. I actually called him up and asked him for a favor to be in a movie. And he put me in a wonderful Western that he directed and starred in called Going South. I was in that movie, and I finally now, it wasn't just a one-line part. I had, like a dozen lines in the movie or something like it. And so now I was expected to do another level of work than just be in the background and drunk. And so I did my first shot at a close-up, and Jack said, "Is that all you're going to give me?" And I was devastated. He wasn't trying to be cruel. He was doing it to get some sort of life going on behind my vacant eyes. And so my heart started pounding like that night on Sunset Boulevard. And I did the same thing. I used the adrenaline to my advantage, like jujitsu, use that energy, that's going on to your advantage. And I was panic stricken in hell because, my friend wasn't pleased with what I was doing, and he was correct to be so. I was just kind of relaxed in front of the camera from that day, 1977 to the decade before it when I started as an actor. I was just kind of mostly relaxed. And that's not a good thing in a movie, to just be relaxed all the time. It doesn't sell well. So I used that fear to my advantage, and he gave me some other tips, and he got a take that he liked, and we went on to the next scene. But he helped me immeasurably.
You talk in the book about how that was like a real galvanizing moment for you, where you just because you're hearing it from not only your friend but somebody who you have such immense respect for as an actor. It was
no one I respected more. No one he was such a great actor. Long before I met him, I saw him in those Roger Corman movies. I went, who is that guy in Hell's Angels on Wheels? Who is that guy in this movie and that? Then finally Easy Rider, and Five Easy Pieces and all these great movies that he did. He became a big star. And somewhere around there, I met him through Harry Gittes and Cindy Williams, my dear friend Cindy, and became friends with Jack. He was so nice to me. I guess he liked my old man. He never met him, but he liked his work on screen and who he was. My dad was a factory worker that made it good as an actor in his 40s. So I think Jack liked that story too. My dad was from Hartford. He was from New Jersey. Jack was. And so they would have been friends had they been, together more.
Skipping all around Ed Begley Jr. because the book is filled with all this. You all of these women you were involved with, and I don't mean to make it sound too decadent and fun, but there was a decadent fun part of your life, and you even end up partying, I believe, at the Spahn Ranch, which was why is the Spahn Ranch important to Ed Begley Jr. and historically?
I'll tell you why, because I went there to just smoke a joint with my pal James Jeremias, who's still friends to this day. He had a friend, David Kurland, who lived in a tree house next to the saloon. And we ran out of dope, so we went up and we, shared a joint with these people, these hippies that lived up the hill from my friend David, James's friend David.
And who else lived there at Spahn Ranch?
Well, that's the thing. There wasn't a real saloon that David lived in a treehouse next to. It was a movie set called the Spahn Ranch, which is where the Manson gang lived. We smoked a joint with the Manson gang, not knowing that there was a Manson gang. They were just a bunch of hippies smoking a joint at that point. I don't know that they had planned to do what they horribly, monsters that they were, did. But at that point, we didn't realize it until a year later. The pictures were in the newspaper. Called up James. Aren't these the people that we met up at the Spahn Ranch with your pal? Absolutely, that's them. And so it was just the horror of knowing you've been, I've been around some gods and I've been around some monsters, and these are definitely monsters.
It's weird, though, that they, have there's nothing about them in your visit with them that would have suggested that they would even be capable of something so horrifying.
No, one of them had some music, that he was trying to promote. He asked, because he recognized my name, Begley, related to Ed Begley. He said, yeah, that's my dad. He wanted some help with that. And I didn't really know a lot of people in music then. I know people in TV and films a bit. So I said, well, I'll get back to you on that, and never did, of course. And I'm glad I didn't give him my phone number or my address.
Saint Elsewhere, Ed Begley Jr., that was the big turning point in your career.
It was. And what's interesting to note, as is the case in many important junctures in my life, what I wanted was not nearly as good as what I got, Mark. I wanted to play the part, as anyone would, of a regular character on Saint Elsewhere when they were casting the pilot. Not a foot had been shot yet. They hadn't started shooting at all. I wanted the part of regular Dr. Peter White is what I wanted. I didn't get that. Wonderful actor got that. Terrence Knox got that part. I did not. They threw me a bone and gave me the small part of Dr. Ehrlich. He had like one or two lines in the pilot was all. The part of Dr. Peter White got killed in the second or third season, dead and gone. I lasted the whole 6 years, and it was one of the most powerful. One of the most well-regarded characters in the show. It really did very, very well. Very popular characters, what I'm trying to say, with the viewers.
Yeah, and you're acting with look at that troupe of actors. I mean, everybody, went on to some pretty
The great-
substantial work.
Great Denzel Washington, the great David Morse, the great Howie Mandel. I love Mark Harmon, fabulous actor, fabulous guy. Stephen First, Sagan Lewis is down there at the bottom to the right of the screen. Just all wonderful people, but how lucky am I to work with them, and great writers like John Macias, and Channing Gibson and Chick Egley, and directors like, Mark Tinker. We just had the best of the best at every turn. Bruce Paltrow, though, was the guy that changed my life, giving me that 1 or 2 line part that blossomed into something wonderful.
Yes, your life has had those moments, those beats where the bounce just hits perfectly, where maybe what you wanted doesn't happen, and it's a blessing that it doesn't happen.
Every time.
Yeah. After St. Elsewhere, your life changes how? I mean, obviously financially it changes, and but from an acting career standpoint, you still have to audition, but you audition in a different way, or you don't need to audition anymore, or there's scripts being sent to you. How does it change?
There's some things you don't need to audition for, which was a new thing for me. I had to audition for everything before that. That's not true. I did something that's not true. My pal, Paul Schrader, gave me several parts, fairly large parts of movies without any audition. Nor did Jack make me audition. So I'm a liar right away here, but thank God I caught it. I get it right in the book,
and what did Paul Schrader do that you were in?
He did Cat People. He did the first one he gave me a great part in was Blue Collar, a wonderful movie with Harvey Keitel, Richard Pryor, Yaphet Kotto. I was in that movie and had no audition. So after St. Elsewhere, I rarely had an audition unless it was a really big movie or really, big TV series. I didn't have to audition for much. If you get a show like Hill Street Blues or St. Elsewhere and you're on 6 years, or Hill Street Blues was on, I think, 9 or something like that, you get a show like that as a regular character, you've got to really screw up to not work the rest of your life. Now, maybe in dinner theater, in Dubuque, but still you're going to have work for the rest of your life if you don't screw it up, and run into a van full of kids with a needle in your arm or something, do something really stupid.
Right. You went from worst to first, and it was a question of just kind of keeping the car on the road at that point,
exactly.
Doing the real work. And by then, you'd really understood the work that had to be done. In other words, you had redoubled your acting chops and your focus by then, and even your substance abuse issue.
I did with the help of Bruno Kirby, a wonderful actor. We started off together wanting the same thing, just to get jobs, just to get work. But he had a different dedication than me right away. He really studied more than me and encouraged me to study more. And he went back and studied with Peggy Fury and other wonderful people, Stella Adler. And so I went back and studied some more and got better. Because when I really began, again, my dad made it look so easy. I had this wake me when I'm famous attitude, not willing to put in the work. When I finally started not, learning my lines in the makeup chair before you're about to shoot the scene. How about learning them, let's say the night before even, I was always partying and didn't have that dedication. After St. Elsewhere, I began to get a better dedication and then work, with other people that really helped me, like Jack helped me. And, there's some other people that really, really helped me a lot.
It's just so interesting because you are now this guy who's so grateful. You're so gracious. You seem to have just the opposite of someone who would say, or whether you'd literally say it or just think it, wake me when I'm famous. So this is a real watershed change in your life that came as a result, I think, of all of this constellation of events you talk about in the book coming together. And then post St. Elsewhere, you were, a real actor and a gracious guy. This is where the sort of Ed Begley Jr. 2, part deux comes in. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's that, that moment that you have if you're a spoiled brat in any way, big or small, and I certainly was, where you realize your dad was right. He said, okay, that's all fine, Eddie. I understand you want to do this. You want to be in a TV show, but you got to put in the work. I put in the work. I worked at a factory and I did, at the Guy Hedlund Players. I worked in Hartford, Connecticut. I did small radio parts. You got to do that. Just work, work, work. Yeah, Dad, that's for you. For me, I need to party and be loose and relaxed. And then maybe I'll learn my lines the morning of.
All right, now you were in one of my favorite movies ever with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk.
Oh, The In-Laws. I love that movie.
Oh my God, Ed Begley Jr. I love that movie.
Such a great movie to be friends
How did that
with
happen?
Peter and Alan.
The call to be in that movie.
I just got an interview, through my agent to go and what had I done before that? I'd done something before. I guess I was in Going South before that. I guess, yeah, I was definitely in Blue Collar before that. So this is 1978. I go and interview for that part and get it. And I was also doing at the same time with John Carpenter, this movie Elvis, with Kurt Russell playing Elvis. So, but here's the thing: you see me there in this, and actually, this is interesting. My hair looks blonde there, doesn't it?
Yeah, lighter.
I think they've recorrected it back to my right color. The story I'm about to tell you, I did this thing with Kurt Russell where he played Elvis and I played his drummer, so they had to make my hair dark. And in so doing, they promised they'd bring it back to my blonde color because the next morning after I shot, with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, next morning I had to be on the In-Laws on that movie. And so I wake up in the morning and I'm as red as Opie, from Ron Howard. I'm Ron Howard red. I'm just totally red. What am I going to do? And I had to go to the director and say, this is just temporary, which was a lie. It was totally permanent now until my hair grew out. But I think this guy might be a redhead. Can I leave it in for this movie? And thank God the director said, Arthur Hill said, yeah, that's a good idea. Leave him a redhead. But here, when they came out with the recent DVD, they turned the color wheel a bit and they made me back. Well, Ed Begley's a blonde. The color's a little off in the Panavision negative. So we'll bring it back. That looks pretty blonde to me. But it was pretty red when I shot the thing.
Yeah, it's reddish. It's reddish there.
Yeah, I think it is. You're right. Your eyes are better than mine. Yeah.
But it's lighter. But I get what you're saying. That is interesting. You are in this movie like this, as I recall, a few times. You're on the phone to him, and so you shoot all that stuff, Ed. You shoot it all in one day, and it's all the phone conversations, or how does that work? Do you recall?
Yeah, that day there in the office, that was one day. At another day when I come to their rescue, where they're about to be shot, they're in a firing squad, they're about to be shot. I come at the very last minute because there was bad traffic or something. And then I come again at the wedding at the end of the movie. I have 3 nice scenes, and I had maybe a dozen lines or something like that. To work with Peter Falk and Alan Arkin was just a gift beyond description because I admired them so very much. It was like Jack kind of respect. I just thought the world of them. And I later got to be friendly with Marlon Brando. As I note there, I'm working with the incomparable Meryl Streep. How lucky am I? Where did I go right? That's what I need to know. Where did I go right? And so I just kept working with these great people. And I don't know. I'll be real honest with you, Mark. I don't know how it happened.
Well, you really did. Not only, you end up in all of these great projects and work with these great people, and even into your later stages of the career. I mean, you end up in these projects that become sort of cornerstones of new series television or streaming, however you want to characterize it. For example, Better Call Saul.
Right. What a show.
Yeah, exactly. What a show. Like, it's not just a series, it's a show that is in the zeitgeist,
6 Feet Under, for God's sake. I was on that wonderful show working with the incomparable Francis Conroy, and Alan Ball. I don't know how it happened. I'm the luckiest guy. I won the lottery. I didn't even buy a ticket, I think. Someone slipped a ticket into my pocket.
So on these shows that you mentioned, 6 Feet Under, Better Call Saul, again, just from a process standpoint, you end up, and there you are, in Better Call Saul. They call you and it's just done. You don't have to read anything, or would you come in? We can talk about it. It's any of that. Is that how it goes down?
This was such a big fish that anybody would go and cut bait for this job because they had already done the wonderful Breaking Bad series, just one of my favorite shows of all time. Many people have it in that position on their list. So I get a call from Vince Gilligan, who I worship. He said, "There's a part. Would you just mind? We just would like to hear the way you might interpret it." So they have this script and I read this script. And then Vince says, you give me a real problem, because I wanted to just cast my dear friend, Michael McKean. We worked together on X-Files. And I promised him one day there's going to be a great part I'm going to write for you. And it's this part that I really had Michael in mind, but you read so good. I got to think about this. He didn't think about it long because Michael McKean is a far better actor than me. And I have no delusions about that. And he gave it to Michael. But now the story begins, Mark, because what he says to me is the following. He says, "But we're going to come up with another part for you," says Vince Gilligan. "And it's going to be a nice part. Just wait to hear from us. We're going to write a part for you." That never happens, Mark, ever. When any great director like Vince, great producer, great writer like Vince says something like that, they have no malintentions. They just have to do their job and do the show. They're not remembering you and this promise that they made. But
Sure.
Vince Gilligan is like nobody you've ever met. He's as nice as he is talented, and he has an incredible memory. He indeed gave me this part of Cliff Maine in this wonderful show, and I didn't have to read for that. He's one of a kind. You never met it. I hope you meet him one day if you haven't already. He's just
No,
an
I've never met
extraordinary
him.
writer, extraordinary person. He's like nobody you ever met.
Just a digression. It's funny because you mentioned him. I remember seeing an interview. I thought it was quite striking that he didn't really have an ending for Breaking Bad. And he got all the writers in a room, he said, and they all just had to like beat out how they were going to tie up all of these loose ends. I thought that was just extraordinary. I mean, what an admission, you know? And they all went to their, and then they went to the process.
And it's not just, him doing it. The wonderful Peter Gould and he have collaborated on both Breaking Bad and on Better Call Saul. And he's a dear friend and a great writer and a great producer. And he was part of that whole process with me getting that part. So I'm indebted for life to Peter and to Vince both.
Hey, there you are. Let me just, in our last minute or so with you, you had a relationship with Peter Falk, didn't you?
I did. I love that man. We had the same birthday, September 16th, a few years apart, but the same birthday.
Just one of my favorite actors. Obviously, Columbo was a great character that he helped create and burnish into the culture for so long. But he also, he did so much with Cassavetes as an actor. He was someone who seemed to have a breadth of work. I was always curious, though, because I was such a Peter Falk fan, and I never had the pleasure of meeting him. I wonder if you could just share a Peter Falk thought or two, because I just am such a fan of his.
We were on the in-laws in Cuernavaca, Mexico. I was really wondering, what does Peter think of me? I hope he likes me. I'd done it at Columbo, a small part in a Columbo, and I wonder if he likes me. So we're there having Thanksgiving dinner. And Peter knocks in his glass and says, I got to tell you something. To be here in Cuernavaca is most wonderful experience to be with all of you, Alan. To work with you is a classic moment in my life. And Arthur Hill, you're an incredible director. That blonde guy is a total pain in the ass. I don't even know his name. I don't know how we got a job on this, and it was brilliantly funny. And of course, he meant it lovingly. And it was the greatest moment that he even knew who I was and cared enough to make a derogatory statement about me.
Yeah, to include you, that's really funny.
We became great friends with Shara Denise and him. Rochelle and I spent many birthdays with his wife Shara and he, because we had the same birthday. We shared it together. So I'm just once again, blessed infinitely.
Really something. Give me a little something on your environmental activism, which is a big part of your life. You've really, made that a calling card associated with Ed Begley Jr. In addition to your work, and you're still working, just being so very impressive here in the latter part of your career, which could go on for a long, long time this way. But you've also worked hard to put environmentalism into a lot of the stuff that you do.
Yeah, it's really a passion with me. I started back in 1970, and it's important to note because there's plenty of bad news, plenty of challenges we have the environment, and I'm not shying away from any of it. We have climate change and the loss of coral reefs and amphibians that are dying, many other species. But for 1 second, just remember, even though we have 4 times the cars in LA and millions of people, 4 times the cars and millions more people since 1970, we have a fraction of the smog. It's much, much better in nearly all of LA. Now, we still have people that live near the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles that are breathing polluted air. Yes, we're going to get help for those people near the shipping centers, the fulfillment centers, and the freeway interchanges. Those people need help, but we've proven that we can do it. So it's a big ticket item. We can do it. Ozone depletion was a big problem, but the ozone hole is not the same. It's not bigger. It's smaller because we banned CFCs. Hudson River isn't as polluted as it used to be in the 60s. The Cuyahoga River does not catch fire. We've done a lot of good things. Let's stay the course and do what works, and we can do this together.
What a great run that was. You just, to me, made the argument so powerfully for why you must have regulation on so many toxins that otherwise would just be dumped into the environment, air, soil, water. And
an environmental radical by the name of Richard Nixon, don't forget, is the one who signed the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. So that's why the Cuyahoga River doesn't catch fire. It's because of people who reach across the aisle and work together for the common good. And who doesn't want clean air for their children, clean water for their children? I think Republican and Democrat both want that. So it's something we have to do together.
Lisa says, Ed, we're always happy when you appear on screen. You're one of our faves. And,
Thank you, Lisa.
This from Walter. Did you know that Ed Begley Jr. was on a show called My Three Sons? That is true, right, Ed Begley Jr.? You were.
My first job, my first day in show business. I went after I was done, left my makeup on, and did my paper route. I had a paper route, which was my real job. That was my day job. Left my makeup on, hoping somebody would recognize me. They hadn't even processed the film yet. I was like, I hope somebody recognized me from television with a paper route and makeup.
Oh, that's just marvelous. Really, really great. Look, I wish you the best with the book. Again, To the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It, a memoir by Ed Begley Jr. I think you are a gift, my friend, and it is so great to spend time with you whenever. And your book is a great read. It's a page-turner, great stories, and what a life. I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see you again soon.
You're such a friend, Mark. It's always great to talk to you.
Ed Begley Jr., everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. He's a real thing. He's the real thing. We will drop that as a separate video, too. If you want to share it with other people, you can do that wherever you are doing your sharing, Facebook or wherever you kids have the TikTok and the Facebook, social media. Let's do some news from Kim. No one does the news like Kim does the news.
Kim, how are you?
And then we have a actual rich, very rich series of stories I'd like to get to really stick the landing, if we can, Albert.
What?
You know what I'm saying?
Albert, thank you.
Finish strong is what I'm saying, Albert. You
I
understand?
think that's the best finish. Yeah, that's finishing strong.
I don't want you to think that we've topped out with celebrities with Ed Begley Jr. I also have some additional celebrities to help stick the landing. They will be referenced in some of the stories we will be doing. And I will also acknowledge some of those who've helped support us today on the show financially. Everybody supports us, I think, emotionally. You know, we're all emotionally fragile on this show. We all need the reinforcement that we get from our audience. We appreciate it. But the financial support is even more, or it's equally important, might be the way to put it.
What?
Yes, I know that was inartfully said, but you got the essence of what I was saying. So, Kim's news.
Kim, how are you?
And then we'll get to the finish and sticking the landing, and we will land this plane beautifully. And there's never been anything like
There's never been anything like this.
So,
Will there
Mark
be
Thompson.
applause for the pilot at the end? Can we do that?
Yes, you will stand and applaud. It's
Thank
going
you.
to be that good.
Okay.
So, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
In that scenario, am I the one that offers you a cocktail or pretzels? Well,
I don't think you have to
can I get you some
carry
peanuts,
the
sir?
analogy all the way to that.
Would you like some
know what I mean?
coffee? Maybe a vodka martini? Can I
But,
get you some pretzels?
I mean,
you just
however you want to do it.
Let's go to the border. How about we start there? President Biden will visit the U.S.-Mexico border Thursday as he faces criticism over his handling of the migrant crisis. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre telling reporters the president will meet with Border Patrol and local leaders in Brownsville, Texas. He'll also be calling on Republicans to vote to pass a bipartisan border security deal negotiated in the Senate. President Biden's political rival Donald Trump, meanwhile, will deliver remarks in Eagle Pass, Texas. So everybody to the border at once. Here we go. Californians are getting time to prepare for a major travel alert. Yep, it's that picture of Tahoe we love so much. They say that anyone headed to Lake Tahoe is urged to get there before tomorrow night or don't go at all. A blizzard on track to hit the northern Sierra Nevada mountains for 4 days, dumping up to 12 feet of snow, winds blowing at 50 miles an hour. Not safe for driving. So that means driving will not only be extremely dangerous, possibly impossible. The storm could close highways through the weekend. So again, if you're going, you got to go get there before tomorrow night, or just don't bother. Don't bother doing it. Speaking of our wonderful Sierra, there's a tragedy at California's Sequoia National Forest shutting down a very popular spot. The Forest Service says Miracle Hot Springs will be closed indefinitely after a second person was found dead this month in one of the soaking tubs. This comes after a body was discovered there 16 months ago. So this location is on the Kern River near Lake Isabella in the southern Sierra Nevada mountains. They're trying to work on a long-term solution for this now. But yeah, another person didn't survive that. The state of California is joining another national fight against plastic pollution. Attorney General Rob Bonta and 11 other attorneys general sending a letter yesterday to the General Services Administration. They support a proposed rule to reduce federal purchases of single-use plastic packaging. They also recommend making it mandatory to phase out those products. Bonta says this is a way to build a healthier planet for future generations to come. It's eliminated plastic pollution costs the state $500 million each year in cleanup and prevention as well. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors voting to add more plant-based foods to county-run facilities. The board adopted the motion to use fewer animal products as a means of reducing greenhouse gases. Los Angeles County had 111 food contracts with hospitals, schools, various other facilities. A committee will look at options for implementation and then report back to the board soon. The list is growing longer in California's home insurance crisis. A company aimed at wealthy customers is the latest to leave the state. It's Crestbrook Insurance, a subsidiary of Nationwide, also known as a Nationwide private client. It stopped writing new home policies in December, and it will not renew any more come June 15th of next year. A spokesperson says the move is part of a nationwide decision to scale back business. California touting the early success of efforts to fight organized retail crime. Governor Gavin Newsom's office says the state invested $267 million in 2023, giving cities and counties funding to hire more officers and prosecute criminals. Hemet, Los Angeles, Modesto, Roseville, Sacramento County alone, netting nearly 1,000 arrests with the additional funds. They did it partly through increased sting operations and patrols. Some district attorneys have started to establish organized retail crime prosecution units to hold crooks accountable.
I've never felt safer, Kim.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, thanks, GovGav. Yeah. This is one of those things that, you know, if you're going to make a car, can you at least get the steering wheel right? I don't know. Over 338,000 Jeep Grand Cherokees are being recalled because of a steering wheel issue. Chrysler says the issue could cause the steering wheel to fall outward and make drivers lose control of the vehicle. This recall is for 2021 through 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L.
The steering wheel may do what?
Fall outward.
What?
And make drivers lose control of the vehicle.
Wow. Yeah. That is really bad.
Yeah, it's not a good scene. No. Speaking of accidents, check this one out.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
I think you need a big apology when that happens to somebody driving.
I mean, come on now. Imagine having your hands on the steering wheel and having that happen. Like, what the hell just happened?
I mean, it falls
out. It falls outward. You know, here's what I'm thinking. You know how you can move the steering wheel to different positions?
Sure.
Well, what if it didn't lock properly and it fell outward toward you?
Okay.
And then you're like, what? That's weird.
Oh, and then you or you lose.
Perhaps
you lose grip on the wheel. I see.
I don't necessarily know if it falls off completely, but it falls outward. So
okay.
4 bicyclists are in the hospital after what almost became a hit and run in Felton, Santa Cruz Mountains area. At least 2 of the victims suffering serious injuries. CHP responding to this crash last night on Highway 9. They say an 85-year-old woman slammed into 4 bicyclists with her car as they were riding on the shoulder, and then she kept going until she hit a tree. She's being treated for minor injuries. No reason yet why this happened. The CHP confirms they don't think drugs or alcohol is involved in this one, but imagine hitting 4 at once. Wow. Northrop Grumman could cut as many as 1,000 jobs at its Space Park facility in Redondo Beach. This after the U.S. Space Force canceled a contract it had awarded the company to develop a military communications satellite. But the Space Force says it dropped the multi-billion-dollar program because of high costs, difficulties developing its payload, and a scheduling delay. Pacific Grove is taking action to protect monarch butterflies. Its popular sanctuary is staying closed until possibly this summer because several butterflies died during recent winter storms, so now a tree is dying and needs to be removed. The process will take a while to avoid disturbing the monarchs as they slowly migrate out to breeding areas in the east and north. The city hopes the population can come back in full force later this year. And lastly, and I don't know if anyone's surprised about this at all, Travis Kelce now has his sights set on Hollywood. Here he comes.
Yeah, not unexpected.
He's going to try to do the whole Mark Thompson thing, and I don't know if he's going to be so successful.
I think what's going to stop him? I mean, he's going to definitely get a couple of shots, right?
I mean, I don't know. He does the podcast, so he's already, on the Mark Thompson path. He's got the football, and now, I guess, would you want to see him in the movies? He's been on Saturday Night Live.
Look, you're doing a reasonable, pure calculation, which is something that I think a lot of people might do. But that's not really the way to do the calculation anymore.
Oh.
You started with, do you think people would really want to see him in the movies?
Yeah.
It's not a question of that anymore. It's a question of the fact that he is able to promote whatever he is doing on a level that is transcendent of anything else we've seen, primarily because he's connected to one of the greatest influencers in history, Taylor Swift. So she will propel whatever project he is working on, and maybe it'll be great. But I'm just trying to say that the ability to get the word out, the ability to get customers, if you will, through the turnstiles to see whatever movie, to buy whatever tickets, to go to whatever event, it's unprecedented.
There's never been anything like
this. But
this.
There really hasn't been anything like this. So he's, I think, set up, at least initially, for a pretty decent career shot. Now, then he still has to deliver on some level, but he probably has a couple of clean shots where, he can blame the script or Hollywood can blame the script. I don't see any way that he can fail. I really don't.
Well, he's starting with making his way into the movie business as an executive producer on an upcoming independent
Nobody has
film.
ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
That is a great idea.
It's called My Dead Friend Zoe. It's a dark comedy that cost less than $10 million to make. It was financed using renewable energy tax credits and stars Morgan Freeman, Ed Harris, Sonequa Martin Green, and Natalie Morales. The film premieres next month at South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas.
I love it.
Morning.
I think it's going to be a winner. It's a low budget. Oh, he's doing it smart. I mean, let me say this in fairness. I don't mean to make him sound like some, dude who's just riding on the coattails of his girlfriend and who can catch balls and run fast. He's clearly a smart guy. And maybe he can really pivot to this career. Good for him.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I think he's quite extraordinary.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have never heard of something like that.
Okay, I get the idea. Thank you.
This report is sponsored by you, which means
There is nothing in our history
Albert,
that
I
quite
get it.
compares to this.
All right, Albert. There's nothing
we
like
do
it.
count on you to help us
All right.
support all this fun and frivolity on the Mark Thompson Show. Find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. themarkthompsonshow.com. Patreon link is there. PayPal link is there. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Also, the super chats and super stickers are open here. And you are now free to move about the cabin. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
It's fantastic.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for. And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
Why are you yelling?
All right, everybody, we are finishing strong. Mark Thompson Show. I'm Mark with Kim and Albert. If you've never met them, you should meet them here virtually. They are really cool people. I love being on the show
Albert,
with them.
thank you.
And
Kim, how are you?
Somehow think that maybe virtually is the best way to meet them, kind of to be perfectly honest. Yeah. And myself as well, by the way. I include myself in the category of people who you want a virtual relationship with as opposed to an actual relationship with. We had great conversations in the first hour about politics. We kicked it off with Richard Greene, the civics dean. He talked about the magic number of 270. He talked about third party. I thought it was really a good comment on this particular political environment, and he also talked about the Michigan primary and what we learned from it. So I encourage you to go back and check that out. We'll drop it as a separate video, and he will be back with us. We had John Rothmann. We'll do the same with that. Ed Begley Jr. And now, Albert, I turn to you. I wanted to do a mini That's Rich with a follow-up of a story that Kim actually featured on Freddie Mercury's London mansion.
Oh, yeah.
So while you ready that, Albert, I'm going to tell everyone, maybe Kim, you can provide the supporting visual, if Albert is unable to, of, I don't know how he says his last name, Charles Dierkop. You're going to know his face big time. He was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He's just passed away at age 87. He was known for, I think, a lot of work that makes his face super recognizable, like he was in The Sting, and he was in the show Policewoman, and he had all of those kinds of acting jobs that would put him in the company of actors in big movies and television series. He was alongside Rod Steiger in a movie called The Pawnbroker in 1964. And he played, there he is. You see, he plays gangsters, and he's got that look, right? Mm-hmm. He was a gangster in a mob movie called The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with Paul Newman and Robert Redford, he is one of their crew, you know. That's Star Trek. Yeah, he just was in everything. The guy worked so much. He was a real working actor. Lost in Space, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Star Trek, Batman, Adam 12, Ironside, The Andy Griffith Show, Daniel Boone. He was in Love American Style, Mission Impossible. These are all the sort of the mother's milk of 60s and 70s series television. He was a big part of it. He was featured on 90 episodes of Policewoman, and there he is with the cast of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So I thought you might recognize him. He was on T.J. Hooker, Fantasy Island, The Fall Guy, Simon and Simon. He was in the movie Maverick with Mel Gibson. He was on ER. He also made an appearance in REM's music video, Man on the Moon.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, I really, I shouldn't say mourn his death, but when it really landed with me, because I think I just grew up seeing this guy show up in so many of those kinds of projects.
He had the good kind of fame where maybe not everybody knew his name, and he could go to the store without the paparazzi following, but he had a great body of work, and he was able to do what he loved.
Well, I would also say this. When he went to the store or went out in public, everybody recognized him. Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
They may not know exactly where they recognize him from, but
I know
everybody.
that guy.
I mean, almost 100%.
Yeah.
You couldn't have participated in the culture of media at all without recognizing Charles Dierkop. So rest in peace, my friend. 87 years old. Wow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about that Eugene Levy? He's going to join the cast of Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez. That series is a hit, as you know. And you see it on Hulu. Eugene Levy. How old do you think Eugene Levy is? How old is Eugene Levy, everybody? You tell me in the chat. He of SCTV fame, right? SCTV, great comic actor. His son is a brilliant producer, actor. There he is. The eyebrows, the hair. Show me some guesses, please, somebody. I see 67, says Becky.
He's not very wrinkly.
Yeah, I think he might be older than that. Blue Spark, 72. Feels like it's getting warm. Spencer Jaffe, 74. In the chat, the guesses are hovering around 70. 75 says Tom Dusenberry, who is the keeper of the ding words. And 80 says Ren. The answer still has not been guessed. 69 says Heather Kennedy. 73 says William. Mars, formerly Al-Anonymous, I'm trusting that you did not check Google, but it is indeed 77 for Eugene Levy.
Okay.
77. He'll be joining the cast of
same
the...
age as Donald Trump.
Oh, that's right. Oh, wow. Congratulations, Dad.
Hey.
You're the same age as Donald Trump. He is as you know, a brilliant improv and comedic actor, 77 years old. He's a comedy legend. I think it's fair to call him that. Anyway, Only Murders in the Building, season 4. And, if you don't know it, it's essentially 3 residents in a New York City apartment building, and they start a podcast while investigating the murder of somebody who's a tenant in the building, and laughs ensue. And also, it's a legit mystery, So, I mean, Divine Joy Randolph, Tina Fey. There have been some pretty high-profile people who've passed through. I think Sting was in an episode, Meryl Streep. So they do get some pretty serious actors through there as well. So that's the latest one.
The Mark Thompson
Eugene
Show.
Levy. Will you hit me with some That's Rich, Albert? We like to keep an eye on some big money moves. This is That's Rich.
Who are they?
The top 1/10 of 1%.
What are they like?
These people are so posh and snobby, they're snotty.
That's Rich on the Mark Thompson Show.
I always like to take a look sometimes at a nice piece of property that the moneyed elite might have an opportunity to acquire. And so it is with Freddie Mercury's stunning 30 million euro London mansion. While I talk about this, Albert, 30 million euro, I give some of the details here. You can tell me exactly with US dollars what 30 million euro is. But right now,
Albert,
I'll just tell everyone that his London mansion is decorated, as they've said, with an eclectic style. Here's some pictures. It is home to the piano where he wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. This is the first time this property's been on sale.
Very pretty.
It's in Kensington. It was purchased in 1980 by Freddie Mercury, and it was owned until his death in 1991. He had a lot of lavish parties here that were much talked about. It's a neo-Georgian mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they're keeping, it's really pretty with the grounds, and it looks like, I don't know if that's a cherry blossom tree or...
yeah.
Yeah. That's the piano that you're seeing there where Bohemian Rhapsody was written.
That comes with the house?
I don't think so. I think that the grand piano was there, but I do not believe they're leaving the grand piano behind. No.
30 million euro, by the way, is 32,511,000.
Ah, yeah, very well done. They're also, it has 28 rooms. The this palatial place does. There's the group, and there's the
house.
The house.
It's very nice.
Freddie gave the place to his close friend Mary Austin. She's 72 now. She moved into the house 10 months after his death. She did much of the interior design for him, choosing as that Louis XV furniture. Mary had lived at the property with her 2 children, who have both since left, and now she feels as though she's not going to live there anymore. She's putting it on the market. She told British media that she left her, that Mercury left her the house, quote, because you would have been the woman I would have married, he said. And by rights, this would have been yours anyway. Yeah. He did have a relationship with Mary. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a second. But the house was built between 1907 at 2 stories, 8 bedrooms, double height drawing room.
How many bathrooms?
Doesn't say.
Oh.
Unless you can find that information. The double height drawing room was the room that housed the Yamaha G2 baby grand piano. That might mean something to musicians out there. Meaning you'll know what kind of piano that is. Other highly valued items, which also went under the hammer at the same time that that many of these items were sold at auction. I believe the piano was sold at auction, in answer to your question. Are that crown that you saw earlier, like pieces of Freddie Mercury's wardrobe, etc. So he led a pretty decadent life. He was a very promiscuous guy, famed for promiscuity, they say. Admitted to bedding up to 6 men a night during a period of extreme physical excess. Tragically passed away, of course, in 91 at the age of 45 from pneumonia resulting from AIDS. He'd only told a few of his closest friends about his illness, kept it a secret even from his fellow Queen band members. But his last famous words in public were, "The time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth. I hope everyone will join me, my doctors and all those worldwide, in the fight against this terrible disease." Yeah. I mean, it takes you back to that time when no one was talking about it. Couldn't get Ronald Reagan to even admit that it was out there.
And it was a stigma, right?
Right.
For a time, people wouldn't even hug someone with AIDS.
There was no
scary diagnosis.
Exactly.
And it meant death. Look how far we've come now.
Yeah. Anyway, magnificent, creative, brilliant performer. And he did propose to Mary, I'm talking about Mary. He proposed to her around the time that Queen released their debut album. And they had an on-again, off-again romance, as it was described, during which they did live together intermittently for 20 years. And then he said in 76 that he was bisexual. And by that time he said that, he was an international star. Mm-hmm. But then, as we know, I mean, really, he pursued a really active party life, and ultimately ended up paying a huge, huge price. John says, I didn't realize how much I liked Queen until Bohemian Rhapsody came out of you. Well, there's some great Freddie Mercury. I encourage you to listen to the song Barcelona. Barcelona may be one of my favorite things that he's ever done. It's very big, kind of presentational, almost operatic, which he did so beautifully. Mary knows where Freddie was buried and never told anyone, says Cassandra. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that, my friends, so it's $32 million is what it will do to get, if you want to pick up that London mansion.
Yep.
$32 million will get it done for Freddie Mercury's place. That's rich for today.
Japanese tea room even, which is nice.
Japanese, my favorite kind of tea room.
Yeah.
The Japanese kind.
More on how the other half lives.
These people aren't just rich, they're crazy rich.
Next time on The Mark Thompson Show.
Talk to me, Albert. I've got people I saw during our Ed thing. Here it is. Mike Ekstrom. I want a big shout out to Mike for a 20 spot today with a super sticker. Thank you so much. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Very cool, Mike. And Croquet Film, really crushing it lately. Loved Ed Begley's father in Rod Serling's Patterns, he said. I meant to ask him about that. Thank you,
shout out.
Croquet, for that. And I told you, Albert, we need some croquet news.
I'm still not up to date with my croquet or my professional croquet. I don't know if there's a scene. There's probably a scene somewhere.
There is. I mean, look, there is a
professionals.
I promise you, there's a website, something, Albert. You must pull together your croquet game when it comes to news about croquet. All right, so
Albert,
I'm counting on you for that. Tomorrow, oh yeah. What a show awaits you tomorrow. The actor from Billions. He's also in the Oscar-nominated film The Holdovers. Kelly O'Coin will be here. He was in The Americans, you know that series as well. A lot of stuff.
What?
Yeah. But to lead off the show tomorrow, Senate candidate Steve Garvey will be here. That's right. Steve Garvey, the former Dodger, former Padre, comes into what is often felt to be Giants country. You got to get a lot of the whole state. I don't blame him for reaching out. Now be nice to Steve Garvey, damn it, Kim. You too, Albert.
Albert, thank you.
I don't know. If he's... I don't think I can do it.
David, you better do it. David Katz tomorrow as well.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
And Belinda Weymouth with It's the Planet, Stupid. Wow, what a
On
show.
time, bye, bye.
I'm actually going to show up for that one. Until then, bye-bye.